seemingly yet more problems for our gracious Majesty the Queen. But what this time? Isn't it a beautiful setting though behind me? This is the House of Commons, the House of Parliament, and it's been a very busy time, as if you can imagine. If you're following, of course, British politics, it was the scene of Boris Johnson's big debacle, of course, as to whether he attended a cheese and wine party, all that sort of stuff. Nobody's truly bothered, actually. It's like a lot of media stories, you know. People just want to move on and deal with the things that matter to them in their own lives. A little bit like what's happening with this particular breaking royal story today. Now, I'm not sure if you're across this story, but sadly for His Royal Highness the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, all hopes of the case that he hoped to be thrown out from the New York judge have not happened. In fact, now that will go to a civil case. It's interesting really, because a lot of people are saying this spells disaster for the Duke of York. Well, not necessarily. Now let me explain. This isn't really great for the publicity brand for the royal family, and particularly in this Platinum Jubilee celebration for our gracious Majesty the Queen. It would have been nice, of course, to have a clear run and basically enjoy the entire celebrations with all of her close family around her. Sadly, we can tell you first here on the show that will now not include His Royal Highness the Duke of York. There may be some private dinners, of course, to celebrate such a historic event, but certainly in public we won't see much of His Royal Highness Prince Andrew this year. Very sad actually though for the Queen when you think about it, whichever way you want to look at this. But where does it leave Prince Andrew on the bigger stage? Let me explain. Well, while it's something of a PR disaster for the Duke of York, this also may be the ideal opportunity for him to clear his name. It gives him a chance to present his side of the story in public. A lot of people are speculating also, will there be more revelations to come out? Well, I don't think so really, only because what we've seen and heard already are the main facts of the story. But moving forward, where does this leave Miss Giuffre, Virginia Giuffre? She, of course, is the lady in question. It's going to be rather tricky for her moving forward on this simple note. She has, over the years, given numerous interviews, which will now be picked over, dissected, and made public once again. And I think a lot of people here in the United Kingdom are really baffled by this alleged settlement that she received from Mr. Epstein, or should I say the late Mr. Epstein. Of course, that was a substantial amount of money, which has now been overturned in her favour currently. But of course, a lot of people will want to know, where did that money go, if in fact she received it? As you can imagine, there's lots and lots of unanswered questions. But more importantly for the Duke of York, it depends on what he presents forward as his case. Now, you know, as I say, it's a rather tricky time, but it does give His Royal Highness Prince Andrew the opportunity finally to go public with his side of events. For the side of Miss Giuffre, of course, you don't know what they have in their arsenal, as they say. There could be lots of things we are simply unaware of. But right now, the mood here in the British public's mind is this. They would like a conclusion to this case once and for all. But let me explain, this could take up to a year to be resolved. In fact, it could take a year before it arrives in court. It takes that long. For Prince Andrew, that's a lot more worry and, of course, a lot more stress for our ageing Queen. Something clearly, at her ripe old age, she could simply do without. What about the rest of the British royals? Will they be gathering round Prince Andrew to support him? Well, I'm sure they will in private, but in public, until they learn the mood of the nation, they will of course put on a public front. And as I say, sadly for Prince Andrew, it does look like he will miss out on what looks to be a very spectacular Royal Platinum Jubilee celebration. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.